Hey guys, number one Marmaduke fan here. Just one of these quick vids where I look at what I've been reading real quick and make a few brief comments. I've praised Akira Himekawa's manga like to the moon and back. I actually think their adaptation of A Link to the Past isn't that good because their interpretation of Link for that is that he's completely pure-hearted. Uh, which I like the initiative of they're always reinterpreting Link or trying to give each version of Link his own flair because they understand it's a different character each time. But, being perfectly pure hearted, I don't know if they nailed that one. But Oracle of Seasons, Oracle of Ages, I think they really nailed giving this character his own vibe. And actually, there's a little bonus section at the end that is just like two short chapters, but I feel like it justifies the cost of purchase of the whole volume, which itself is quite good. So just flipping through it real quick, they're always doing the class. So their goal in every iteration of the character. What's most interesting about this is if you look at these from a meta narrative perspective, like they're all the same. Young boy becomes a hero, right? But if you look at the details, then more specific things start to emerge. So if Ocarina of Time's Link is more of a general, boys coming of age story where he has to, get strong and find confidence. Then when they switch it up, then new details emerge. So their Link in this one is a little bit more of a clown. He just doesn't want to be a hero. He's going to the Knight's Trials basically to make his grandpa happy, but he'd just be content like roaming the world for a little bit. So they use some classic motifs like he meets a young soldier who can kick his butt in a fight, right? And this is kind of like a motivating factor to him. I marked all their like sweet little like concept illustrations for the characters done in Copic. I really wish the Legendary Edition had printed these in color. I also wish they'd printed the color illustrations for the regular manga volumes. So a couple things I wish they'd printed in color in this, but in all of their Copic illustrations, they're talking about personality. They're talking about how this is a more mischievous and maybe a bit more of an immature Link than other ones they've worked with. They talk about how Din is a more mature girl with a lot of passionate, a passionate girl in red with expressive eyes. So she kind of intimidates Link as his first crush, but she's maybe a little too old for him. And it comes across like the things they want to accomplish with the characters in their notes comes across in their art. So keep this in mind. So Oracle of Seasons is a irresponsible young man getting put through the ringer, getting his butt kicked by the bad guy, the Darth Vader type of character, and realizing he's got to get responsible and go on a journey. And I think there's just like a really nice little one-line summary of this where he's given the sword and the Triforce asks him, "Will you take the test?" And he answers, let's see, "If I do it and pass, will I be able to save Din?" And then just silently it reforges his sword and says, "Good answer." Nice. The motivating factor for a young man who doesn't want to, get his butt kicked to become a hero is love. That's kind of like the really important message for young men is the reason you want to go through the ringer, the reason you want to sacrifice for your family is love. Jumping ahead, then this is one of the cartooniest ones. So another thing that Akira Himekawa are great at is stylistic range. So Ocarina of Time is like a perfect, like 13-year-old book. I think that Twilight Princess is a perfect 16-year-old book. And what's amazing is Oracle of Seasons and Oracle of Ages feels like a perfect 11-year-old book, or even like the character designs and the sensibility of it and the language all are almost specifically for an 11-year-old, like a cartoony penguin with boxing gloves, a cartoony kangaroo with boxing gloves. So they kind of look at the game, they look at the game style. I think the Game Boy games are much simpler because they were made for that smaller screen, and they pick up, okay, cartoonier, younger, more fun than the more mature world of Ocarina of Time. And then they adapt that in the art, and they adapt that in the character, and they adapt that in the language. Like I've even noticed that the editors will make comments on like words they think might be too difficult for an 11-year-old to grasp, like hollow. Does an 11-year-old know what a hollow in a tree is? More of they're just little like notes on, the character's, what is it? A capricious little witch. She's great. All right, so it's very much a standard adventure, right? And then in the second one, they want to build on that. So now he's got some world experience. Now he's beaten a bad guy. He's overcome his Darth Vader, and he's got a new set of problems. Now he has to defeat a more intellectual villain as opposed to a physical villain. He has a rival, but the rival isn't really a significant threat to him. The rival's more of kind of like an attitudinal threat to him. Link is a young peasant boy. Ralph is a bit more of a prudish aristocrat, but they both have an interest in saving the Oracle of Ages. And there's some time travel shenanigans, and he meets his ancestor, and of course he gets humbled again. So he goes through the ringer once, he becomes a stronger man, but he still has some growing to do. There's always a new challenge to face. There's always there's always more butts to kick, and you have to get more kick butt continuously. Now, one of the fun tonal things about this is because it's cartoony, they literally have so much fun. Like Link is basically always like dropping genuinely funny quips and one-liners that come from the situation and kind of come from him being more of a scamp, more of a guy who just doesn't want to be doing all this stuff, but he knows he has to because it's his duty. This kitty cat is tough. That's great. Some sad like romantic stories. So jumping ahead, so it's a very excellent, fun little 12-year-old kid becomes a man kind of story. Now the new little bonus section for this book turned this from an excellent book into like absolutely perfect for me, because what it illustrates is Akira Himakawa are masters of adapting the tone of their story for their audience. So that was probably marketed at 11-year-olds. And then they also had to do a bonus manga at elementary students, so like 8-year-olds. And this is just so perfectly like the illustration, an illustration of the difference between writing for 12-year-olds and writing for 8-year-olds. It's scary how good they are at knowing their audience. And it's something like, I'm almost sad like we don't bring over more of like these elementary school age comics from Japan. So let me read their commentary. The short edition of Oracle of Seasons that begins on the next page appeared in Shogaku Ninensei in February and March of 2001, but it's appearing in graphic novel format for the first time here. Seeing it for the first time in a long while, I was like, whoa, did I do this? It was quite a jolt, but my memories gradually came back. Oracle of Seasons and Oracle of Ages were in serialization simultaneously. Oracle of Seasons began in a supplement to Shogaku Gonensei in March and had more pages, while Oracle of Ages began in Shogaku Yonensei in February. Wow, they're working so hard. So when parts 1 and part 2 of this short edition overlapped with those series, meeting my deadlines was awfully tough. I was just beginning the long version, but I had to include the story's conclusion and flashbacks and figure out a way for it to connect well with the graphic novels later. The format was rather distinctive of magazines for students, and now I remember it fondly. There aren't many pages, so it's basically a short summary, and the story is faithful to game strategy. What's more, some characters and items show up that aren't in the longer version. So enjoy another take on Akira Himakawa. And they have the characters like come out and make a few little cutesy comments about how her part is bigger in this one. So what's amazing about this is a completely different adaptation of the exact same source material for a completely different audience. So in the long, for 12-year-old version of the story, they emphasize Link's character. They emphasize his youth and immaturity. They emphasize Onox as a Darth Vader figure who just like stomps him to the ground and shames Link basically into becoming a hero so that he can save the girl he loves, Din. For the 8-year-olds, it's basically an abridged, they did their own abridged series where everything is completely rapid fire. One page, Link shows up. One page, Din shows up. They start dancing. One page, the witch shows up. One page, Onox shows up and kidnaps her, and that's it. He's gone. And then one page, oh, we're off to meet the tree. One page, oh, we gotta get the thing. One page, oh, there's the dragon. One page, we beat the dragon. One page, we get the thing. It is just great. Boom, 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 boom. Because it's for 8-year-olds. 8-year-olds have a shorter attention span. 8-year-olds aren't as interested in seeing like the 12-year-old character faff about and wonder what he's going to do when he grows up. They want to see some action. They want to see some monsters. They want to see some adventure. They want to. It's almost exactly like how when very little kids tell stories, they're not really worried about plots. It's just a series of things happening. And then they also emphasize different characters. So it's more serious characters emphasized in the 12-year-old version. And in this, they emphasize a guy like Great Moblin. Now, I wrote this on Twitter. You guys got to draw your OC saying this, because this is one of the greatest lines of all time. I'm Great Moblin. I love money and bombs and anything bad. So show me the money, money, money. I can't do my Great Moblin voice. Okay. What's great about this, I laughed out loud when I read this, is a character being established immediately. This is the same character archetype as Wario. This is the same character archetype as Bowser, the big greedy villain who loves being a villain. And I kid you not, like Shakespeare is one of the other great examples of this. Iago in Othello. Iago just hates Othello because he's a Moor, so Iago will do these great soliloquies about how much he hates Othello and how he's going to totally destroy this man's whole career. And as you see the tragedy of Othello's life falling apart around him, Iago will come out and just give these hilarious speeches about how much fun he's having. Like Iago's munching the popcorn, watching Othello's life fall apart, and it's funny. It's a very unusual, very endearing type of character to just have this brute who is so evil. He loves that he's evil, and he tells you that he's evil. This is another like little kid thing where I'll have little kids, tell me stories in my drawing workshops, and usually a bad guy will show up and say, "I'm a monster. I love to eat puppies," right? They tell you exactly who they are. They don't even try to trick you into thinking they're not a monster. No, I'm a monster. I eat puppies. It's what I do. And what's more, I absolutely love eating puppies, right? Oh, my boy Carl's Amateur Hour, Carl Toons, he drew his character Hallgrave saying this. And it's perfect, right? Because it's the kind of thing that only a big, brutish, larger-in-life character can say. It's magic. What a magic moment. That is just a perfect 8-year-old, for 8-year-olds kind of thing. A message from the author for the Legendary Edition. The story was divided into Oracle of Seasons and Oracle of Ages, so I designed the story and characters accordingly. The reason I wanted to have both themes underlying the stories is because one goal was to portray love without being embarrassed. I hope everyone senses the simple love the characters around Link, including Pyoko, have for him. Right, this is very much like not sexual love, but Link forms bonds of friendship and love with multiple people. And I think that's important. During serialization, I also did a version of Oracle of Seasons for younger readers in Shogaku Ninensei. It never appeared in the graphic novels, so it's appearing in graphic novel format here for the first time. Enjoy. I love that when they write for 8-year-olds, they actually create characters that sound like the kind of thing a 8-year-old would come up with in their own stories. So that's it for Oracle of Seasons, Oracle of Ages. Great buy. My other quick reads today, there's like a free preview of Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, The Road to 100. I have no idea what the heck is going on in Ninja Turtles these days. I guess it's my fault for not paying attention to them in 8 or 9 years, but 2003 Turtles is where it's at. I love my older brother. He introduced me to the Ninja Turtles, but Gen X's 80s Turtles, your cartoons sucked. I lost respect for Gen X when I finally sat down and watched the 80s cartoon. You guys actually watched that pile of trash, but it introduced a lot of great things into the franchise, like Krang, Bebop and Rocksteady, the game series. I respect the 80s cartoon for that, right? So I guess my problem is I've read, most of what I've read is from the Eastman and Laird run, and the Turtles, they're great because they can go out in New York and stop a bank robbery, and some lady will scream, "Oh, turtle!" right? Or they'll go out into space and fight the Triceratons. And I feel like the Eastman Laird run captured that perfectly. I just feel like whatever the heck this is, it's like it is true. You can. Part of the fun of the Turtles is that they're such ridiculous, literally made as a joke characters, but you can send them on these epic space adventures. You can do these sweet stories about family with them. You can have epic space combat and ancient, Japanese, evil gods or whatever, right? And they work great in almost any kind of story. But I feel like this is all exposition to get me stoked for some event. There's also a neat idea where they have tons and tons of great artists all collaborating on a single issue, but I feel like they didn't quite execute the idea quite right, where they will sometimes switch with this artist for a scene. So a little bit in ancient Japan, right? And they'll have a classy ancient Japanese artist, and then they'll switch to New York and it's a grungy artist, right? And that makes sense. But then other times there'll be a single scene where it switches from panel to panel, and you just can't you can't follow anything. That guy's supposed to be the same as that guy. If it were me, I would have had one artist do each chunk logically, and then each time you switch to a new locale or new time, then the artist changes. I guess the Ninja Turtles are reincarnated versions of Oroku Saki's sons now, and Splinter's a reincarnation of Oroku Saki. I don't know. I don't know, but they sum up like it's a lot of summary of all these guys they fought. Like few little cool artists who kind of like stuck out to me. Said, "Whoa, that's super stylish." And I guess Splinter's turning evil, and they're getting set for some big war. Oh, Jenica shows up, but she's a human. I thought she was a turtle. I don't know. I don't know what the deal with IDW Turtles is. This just wasn't enough to make me interested because it was basically like a Wikipedia article. But some great artists, maybe a little bit more focus in the artistic direction. Right now, The Incredible Hulk, I found this in a shelf of like really old like 2001 papers and documents I was hoarding, and what a gem. Look, it's bent from sitting in a folder for 6 years while I was away at college. What a beautiful comic. Now, the only one of the stories in this annual I really remembered primally was the fairy tale one, and it's the best one. So just flipping at it, Peter David, of course, is the writer, famous. This is great. I love that I'm going back to comics now, because now I look at my old comic and say, oh, now I know who Peter David is. Salvatore LaRocca, who I now know is still doing comics for Marvel. I don't really like his current style. Maybe it's sketchy, but I think he's relying too much on digital tools, but he's really good as the penciler. Then they have like a cool fairy tale story within a story, and Stuart Immonen does the pencils for the fairy tale, and it's completely different. It literally looks like he modeled it after the Disney Sleeping Beauty story to give it that fairy tale vibe. And Brad Vacata inked everything. And it's a great, simple little story. Like, there's a crazy reference to Rob Perlman and the 90s Beauty and the Beast show. Like, good luck if you don't know what that is. I only know what that is because I have like toddler memories of my boomer parents watching it. But so some pop culture references, but then the heart of the story comes across really fast, where there's a woman who's got an emotional problem. She's grieving the death of her fiance. She kind of doesn't want to live anymore. And then she meets up with the Abomination, and the Abomination tells a fairy tale that's kind of his story, but imagined as like a Disney kings and princesses and knights world, where the Banner is the monster and Blonsky, the Abomination, is a humble barber. And what's kind of interesting about it is I don't think I've read the Abomination's real origin story, but in his version of the origin story, he's kind of a tragic figure, and the Banner is like someone who's destroyed his life, but it's like the Abomination's forgiven him and is kind of moving on with his life, and the fairy tale ends up having like a positive impact in the real woman's life, and she wants to live again. So she doesn't live happily ever after, but she's able to find life by making this connection with people. What a great, sweet, memorable story with an actual successful example of how to transition styles from a kind of 90s grungy comic book style to a lyrical illustration style. Tell me that isn't exactly the King from Sleeping Beauty. So, sorry, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles Road to 100. I'm not a Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles historian like my boy Mark Pellegrini. So I've got no clue what the heck they're trying to do with the reincarnation and the ancient Japanese deities I've never heard of, and some kind of family drama. So nice try, not interested. This is a gem. I'm glad I found it. This is a great buy. All right, and it's kid friendly, all ages. Wow. All right, 18 minutes. We don't need no stinking 20-minute videos. I'm Norman Marmaduke fan. I love you guys. Like, comment, subscribe, and I'll catch you later.